Local Justice, presented by Elrod Bobe Law Firm, serving our community since 1980. Here's your host, Attorney Ben Leader.
Welcome to Local Justice, where we dive into the issues and meet the people most impacting justice here locally in York County and beyond. And today I'm really honored to have with us a special guest who has quietly but profoundly impacted the local legal community here for nearly 4 decades. Please help me in welcoming Charlie Burnette, an attorney and novelist and a community leader, and now someone who gets to practice law alongside his son Bax. Charlie, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Let's dive right in. I know that we got a lot to talk about with your legal career that I want to get into, but I want to start where some people may not expect, which is your time as a novelist. I would love to hear a little bit more about what led to you ultimately deciding to get into writing, and what kind of inspired you to go down that path and how it all began.
Well, Ben, I wish I could say that I was inspired by Hemingway or Faulkner, but the truth of the matter is it came about due to a failure on my part. 26 years ago, the Patriot film starring Mel Gibson was very prominent in York County, and most of the filming done here in York County. I was the stand-in and the photo double for a British actor by the name of Tom Wilkinson, and Tom played General Cornwallis in that movie. So when you see the back of his head or somebody on a horse riding across the screen, that's me. You just don't know it. You think it's him, but it was me. And so it was really an honor that they chose me to have that involvement in the film. One day, Tom Wilkinson had to go back to London because he was doing another film at the same time. And so the directors gave me the script and said, "You're going to be on tomorrow, and you will do the lines with all the major actors," which I did and committed it to memory, got out there, had my day in front of the camera, and then it was over. The casting director, who happened to be out there, came up to me and said, "I really like what I saw today." I said, "Really?" She said, "We're opening up a new part, a live part in this film, and I'm going to give you a tryout." I said, "Really?" You know what I was thinking at that point in time? I could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it was Hollywood.
That's right.
Oh, but it wasn't, because I'll tell you what happened. I went to try out for this part, and I walk into the venue. There were 60 actors who had all flown themselves at their expense from LA to Charlotte, took a cab to come down to try out for the same part that I wanted. So they gave me the opportunity, they gave me the tryout. The same casting director that said she was impressed with me basically said, "Don't call us, we'll call you." So I had failed miserably. All this grand idea I had just collapsed. So I was having lunch with Tom Wilkinson about a week later, and I told him this story. And he said, "You didn't have a chance of getting that part." And I said, "Why not?" He said, "First of all, you're too old. Secondly, you got a lousy British accent. And thirdly, you're too ugly." So that's where things landed. And but then he stopped. And Tom looked at me and said, "But if you want a part in a movie, write a novel and you can choose your own part." And now you know, what is it, Paul Harvey said, the rest of the story.
Wow. And so how many novels are we at as we sit here today?
5 novels. They're all right here.
All right.
Manipulation by Degree, Broken Town, Subsequent Thoughts, Misplaced Atonement, and my last Disjointed Redemption, which is actually the only sequel that I have written, which is the sequel to Misplaced Atonement. And that gets back to what you asked me to chat with you about today, and that is, what does law have to do with this? And it has everything to do with it. And the reason it has everything to do is that these stories, albeit fiction, all have their roots in cases that I have handled over the decades. And it's just been a resource of information to get your mind churning, to develop fiction, and to write these stories.
That's a fascinating story, and I think it was still a success that you were even in the room in the first place to have the opportunity. So don't be too hard on yourself there. And one of my next questions was going to be, how has the practice of law impacted your writing? And it sounds like it really is the direct result of some of the experiences you've had throughout your career as an attorney.
Well, folks ask me all the time, how in the novel business can you come up with these ideas? I mean, you didn't live through these things. Well, I did live through these cases. And so early on in my career, I started back in 1979, I was trying a lot of cases back then, in the criminal side, civil side, everything from murders to kidnappings to armed robberies to burglaries to rape cases. And then on the civil side, everything from civil cases involving construction litigation, involving fraud cases, involving wreck cases, all down the line. I was trying these cases really sometimes back to back, because that's the way things were back then. You tried a lot of cases, and things are different now. But so these cases, were brutal cases.
Oh, yeah.
Involved brutal facts and gut-wrenching facts that, quite frankly, just gave me the ammunition to put these stories down on paper and trying to entertain people. I don't know if I'm doing a good job of it or not.
Well, I think that's clear evidence that you are going on number 5 now. And I spent a year with Judge Hayes, and just what you see in a week of General Sessions Court, I mean, I'd come home and say, you can't make this stuff up a lot of times. You would be fascinated by some of the cases and stories and facts that just routinely come through the court system here.
Yeah, and you clerking with Judge Hayes, that is a great start of a career, which is reflected now. You're the managing partner, and with a great law firm, a whole bunch of great lawyers, and and I really take my hat off. What I've really gotten out of lately is the law firm administrative part of it. I had to do it for decades, and I never really loved doing that part of it. I love being with clients. I love going into the courtroom. But I'm now with Frost Echols, and what you do for your firm, Chad Echols, that was Mayor Echols'
Absolutely.
son, is Mayor Echols' son, and he does a remarkable job of running Frost Echols, which is a national law firm with offices all over the country, but is headquartered here in Rock Hill. And so I get to watch him, so I know the type of work that you do for your firm, and I really admire you to be able to pull off what you pull off, because you've got a great law firm.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I want to talk a lot more about some of the lawyers and firms you've worked with in the next segment. So we're going to take a quick break from our sponsors. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be right back with more local justice with Attorney Charlie Burnette here shortly.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod and Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
We know the type. You like to start early, finish late, make lemon squares, and make payments to the college fund from anywhere in the house. We know you rely on Comporium for the things you rely on most, like a view of the backyard. That's just a bunny, and hundreds of channels to watch, whenever you want. So you may think of us as just your internet company, but we're more like the I didn't know they could do all that company. Comporium, always ready.
Welcome back to Local Justice. I'm Attorney Ben Leader with Elrod Pope, and today I'm honored to have with me Attorney Charlie Burnette, a local legend here in the legal community and also a very successful author throughout his career too. And so Charlie, I know you went to Wofford College, and then I think you followed that up with the Cumberland School of Law, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and so you settled back down in Rock Hill, and you've been practicing law now for more than 4 decades here, I believe. I know that you've worked with some great law firms, some great lawyers. I would love to hear just a little bit about your path and your journey throughout your career, where you've worked, and some of the lawyers that may have had a big impact on your life.
So in '79, I went to work for the Ridley law firm, Charlie Ridley Jr., Charlie Ridley Sr., and I spent 17 years with what became Ridley and Burnette. And after that, one of my associates, Connie Payne, she joined me, and we created Burnette and Payne, which is actually 2 doors down from Ridley and Burnette in the old 1895 historic house on Main Street.
That's right.
And Connie and I practiced for nearly 30 years together. She's retired now, and my son Bax is practicing with me. He's been with me for 6-7 years, and so that's really been rewarding, very satisfying having a son come into practice with me. And guess where I can draw an analogy?
That's right.
Ben Leader and Jack Leader. Jack Leader was a real mentor to me in the practice of law. Imagine this: for over 4 decades, your dad and I would meet at the Y. We had a running group, and we'd go out and run every business day that we could get there, unless we were in court or something else. And everybody said that we burned more calories talking than we did running, which is probably true. But over those many years, you get to know somebody very well. As I got to know Jack Leader, and he gave me a lot of great inspiration, a lot of grounded advice, the things that I still carry with me today. I miss him.
That's great. That's great. Any other kind of mentors that took you under their wings and early in your career and kind of showed you the ropes?
Oh yes, very much so. And the Ridleys were very good mentors to me, and I've tried a lot of cases with a lot of lawyers over the decades, and in that experience, in this business, it's a tough business. It's an adversarial system. It's a system where, if you think about it, they're 2 sides against one another. Attorneys have got to develop a sense of balance, a sense of not neutrality, but a commitment that we're part of a system of justice. And in that system of justice, you get to know the other side, even though they're your adversary, as I did many times with your dad, because we tried cases against one another. And but when you walk out of the courtroom, you're still friends, and you take what you see that other lawyer doing, the good stuff, and you try to embellish those in your own career. And I dealt with many attorneys, for 46 years now, and got to learn from them. Your dad and many others, some others in your, particularly in workers' comp, Luke Elrod.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I would, particularly when I was younger in my career, I'd go knock on his door probably once a week and go, let me run this by you.
That's right. Yeah, Luke was a special guy, and something I appreciate about York County in general is the willingness, and everybody who's been around the block and has practiced for decades actually takes joy and pride in taking young lawyers out to lunch, showing them the ropes, and teaching them some of the nuances and the courtesies of practicing law. And also practicing in Charlotte, I can tell you it's not always like that, and a lot of places is more competitive, more divisive, but York County has always had a real collaboration between the bar here.
I agree.
Well, I want to touch on something you mentioned earlier, which is working with Bax. And Bax actually worked with our law firm, I think, right before he went to law school, and really impressive young lawyer, great young man. And just wanted to ask you kind of how special it is to get to work along his side and to be in the trenches together.
Well, as I mentioned occasionally, depends on the day. And as you know, it means a lot. I mean, he's family, but I've had the opportunity to bring him up through the ranks. He has tried a lot of lawsuits now.
That's great.
And he's got that under his belt, and he's very dedicated, and I'm so proud that he takes the high road. He follows the rules of ethics, but he fights very hard for his clients, and that's quite satisfying to me as a senior attorney and as a father.
Well, that's very special, and I know it's a highlight of your career and going to be one of the highlights of his career too, being able to work along your side. So few industries can you see as many kind of parent-child, practices like you do in the practice of law. And so we're going to take another quick break from our sponsors, and we'll be right back for the final segment to get to know Charlie a little bit more. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be right back with more local justice.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
At Palmetto Pride, we know we have a choice. The choice for a cleaner South Carolina. And it's an easy one at that. Don't litter. No grand gestures or heroic efforts here, but the outcome still has monumental impacts. When it comes to our state, every choice counts and every action matters. From the great outdoors to parks next door, from Main Street to your street. All it takes is a little bit of pride to keep South Carolina beautiful.
Welcome back to Local Justice. I'm Ben Leader, and today I'm here with Attorney Charlie Burnette. Charlie, thank you again for joining us and for your time and willingness to be on the show. I want to dive deeper into your practice now, and I know throughout 46 years, I believe, you've done a little bit of everything from workers' comp to civil to injury law, and it's exciting to see the new partnership you have with Frost Echols firm and Chad's group over there, and you and Bax are now working with them. Tell us a little bit about what your practice today entails and the type of cases that you enjoy working on the most.
We are very deep in construction litigation. I'm handling a lot of those cases. Bax is handling a lot of those cases, but we are still diversified. And the commitment that I made to Chad Echols was to help develop the local practice for his big nationwide. And that's what we're doing, and we're being very successful at reaching out into the community and let them know what services that we are offering. And we are taking in quite a few very local cases that seem to be complementing the Frost Echols law firm portfolio, so to speak.
It sounds like a perfect fit because, like you mentioned earlier, you're able to focus more on the casework itself, which is I know is what you truly enjoy, and not have to deal with HR or kind of management of people, and you get to focus on what you really get the passion from.
Yeah, that's true. And you mentioned that what type of cases do I enjoy the most? And that's a great question, because the answer is not the cases that make the most money. We all have to pay bills,
sure,
but the satisfaction comes from the ability to help somebody who's really in need. And when I mean in need, these are people really with very little resources. They have serious legal problems and they don't have a clue how to address that. And I'll give you an example. Many decades ago, there was a plumber in town, and I'm not going to say any names, but it was in the newspaper all the time. But anyway, this plumber had advertised heavily, would respond real quickly to somebody with a plumbing problem, would walk into their house, had a great ability to get upfront money. It may have only been $500 or $700 for plumbing. Would get that money or that check in his pocket, would do typically would take a wooden matchstick and go into a toilet that was very defective, that needed to be replaced. And he would put that matchstick in a particular, that would make that toilet work for a couple of hours, maybe a couple of days. But then he's long gone with the money. They've got the same problem that they called him for, and nowhere to be found.
Wow.
And it was happening all over the county. I made a decision to take a dozen or so of those cases, and I tried them all back to back in magistrate's court. Actually, it was in front of Judge Albert Johnson. Ben Johnson,
yeah. Wow.
And a great judge. And the bottom line is we successfully prosecuted. Not one of these people could have handled that case,
sure,
without help. And so we successfully prosecuted. Long story short, the plumber, again, who I'm not mentioning any names, left town, and it became a very positive thing, not only for my clients, but also for the community who just had this chronic problem with this plumber. And and so to answer your question, it's not the cases with the big money that really warm my heart. It's cases like that.
Right. That's a huge impact, and probably saved thousands and thousands of dollars of more fraud that would have occurred down the line. So kudos to you. And I'm curious, after more than 40 years of practicing law, after all of your life experiences, now working with your son and your writing too, what does the word justice mean to you personally?
In a word, fairness. Fairness is a big word, but really what it means is you've all seen the Lady of Justice who wears a blindfold. And the blindfold is very important in that statue because it's blind to that justice is available to everybody. And that same justice should be an opportunity available for everybody who needs justice. And it goes back to the concept of the rule of law. I'm a big believer in the rule of law. I don't feel like people who are privileged should get any better benefit in our public system of justice than anybody else. The rule of law is something that is near and dear to my heart, and I hope as attorneys, you, me, everybody that's part of the bar can have a good understanding that justice, fairness, availability should be across the board, not limited to the privileged.
Could not agree more and could not say it better myself. And I think your story about the plumber, hits home exactly on those principles. And, I think your values and the way you've handled your casework and yourself throughout your career is, the perfect example for a young lawyer to look up to and really embodies everything that the show and that the practice of law should be about. So thank you for your service to the legal community. And sure. Also, as far as your books go, I know that we can find those on Amazon for anybody that may be interested. Are there any local stores that carry them as well?
Oh, absolutely. You mentioned the plumber story again. That story fictitiously is in this novel.
Oh, that's great.
And in particularly the last two, misplaced atonement and disjointed redemption, has a your show's local justice. These are local novels. The names have been changed. Many of the players, although there are some recognizable folks that you may know.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not, but I've had their permission to use their names. And so I will tell your audience, if you're local, you will find yourself in these novels. If you've ever walked Main Street, walk to the fountains. If you've ever been to Ebenezer Cafe, to the Varsity Restaurant, to Red's Grill, you have walked the steps of these novels. It's very local, and it's very available local, as you asked me. Cooks, Corks, and Books.
Oh, yeah.
Ebenezer Grill, Good Pharmacy, Out and Hyatt Law Firm, Oliver and many other places that you can find on my website, charlieburnette.com. And it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, hard copies or ebooks.
That's right. And I think we could probably arrange for even a signed copy if you're interested.
Absolutely.
Right? Well, thank you, Charlie. And that's what local justice is all about. And we're all about supporting our local community here, whether it's local law firms, local authors. We're big on supporting local. And so thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us and share a little bit about your journey. And thank you for the great work you continue to do for the legal community here in York County.
Thank you for having me, Ben.
Absolutely.
I appreciate
It's been a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Mine too.
And thank you to all the viewers for tuning in to another episode of Local Justice. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
Kidney disease is becoming more and more prevalent, especially with diabetes and hypertension. My training with kidney disease helps me to talk to patients and guide them through the steps that they can take, the changes that they can make into their lifestyles. And we have a dedicated team of providers, including dietitians and pharmacists that we work with to educate patients towards achieving that.